section of academia, we're going to talk about the moon and its significance throughout all different mythological cultures and even modern culture and science. I mean, the moon is our satellite. It was a piece of us at one point in time, and it helps control basically some of our most vital functions. It helps control the waves. It controls women to a degree.
Well,
I'd like to know more about that.
Not that moon. Definitely not that moon. But in mythology, you have it, and the moon is represented by either a god or a goddess in every single culture that's out there. So it's always something that's prayed to and believed to be a divine power. More recently,
it was the god of Ralph Cramden.
More recently would be from the Gospel of the Witches and Aradia, and how the moon is Diana, and she gave birth to the earth, which is Aradia or Gaia.
Gaia, yeah. I know. That's
Excuse me,
that.
don't
Yeah.
go to the other
names.
segment for a second. Dark Adadia.
Now, is there any truth that the full moon actually, entices people to act a little crazier?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
I mean,
the full moon shines more light upon everything. I more consider it that when it's the new moon and there's nothing out there and it's more darkness, that I could see more things.
Well,
That's
the dark
interesting.
moon represents a time for us, reflection. And like if you're doing spell work or something, you cannot do anything on the dark moon. It's a time of rest, reflection, meditation, and no witch is to do a spell on the dark moon. No candle magic, nothing.
Right, you wait till the day after or the days after.
Nothing's done on the dark moon.
Is there a
And
specific reason?
it's just a day of rest. The moon is, because to us, the moon rules everything. How you're guided by, if you're going to do, say, a prosperity spell, that you're guided by the moon. If the moon is waxing to bring things in. But when the moon is dark and absent, the moon is resting. There is nothing to be done. And it's a time for, because it basically, our bodies are ruled by that. So it's a time to just rest and reflect.
Yeah.
Like go into, say, the cave, the
Right.
dark cave. And,
Yeah.
Good time for
So
meditation.
it does something from Miyagi. It waxes on,
Waxes on,
wanes
waxes
off.
well, I thought you were about to say is what happens if you do a spell during the dark moon?
It
It
probably won't work.
it won't work.
Oh, so it's just nothing. Nothing.
Right, it won't work.
It's not that something crazy is going to happen. You can open some portal or something.
No, you're
You never know.
You
Right, I
never
suppose,
know.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
it depends on what you're doing.
Right.
you're void of power relative.
Exactly.
Okay.
Low
And
signal.
you're being
So it's
disrespectful.
pointless.
So
Right,
if you're
right,
somebody
it's
who
just-
knows that you should not be doing it, you might get a little bit more of a spiritual bitch slap. But somebody, I can't. But I
That's
just can't.
such a good term.
But if you're somebody who doesn't really know, it just won't work.
Yeah.
Right.
And you also, I mean, there's also studies done. There's some type of a electromagnetic force. Granted, it moves the tides
Right.
on the Earth, but there is some type of a magnetic force that comes
Gravitational.
with the full moon, like a stronger one, and it does affect physically people's minds, and they call them. That's where the word lunatic came from.
Exactly.
Yes, I've heard that.
Of the moon.
But what I don't understand, though, is the moon is there. Moon is always there. It travels along its path, waxes and waning, it's higher or lower. And you see the moon, and what's there of it, only because the Earth is blocking the sun. So that's why you have eclipse when it's fully blocked, you have quarter, half, full, whatever. So how does that affect? Nothing changes except for where the Earth and the moon are positioned for the shadow to hit the moon. So basically, the shadow,
The moon is still orbiting. The moon.
the
is,
moon always orbits.
Right.
The
So-
Earth always orbits the sun.
Right.
Moon
So
orbits
it's-
the Earth. Sun is here.
And that's what continuously changes. But,
Yeah, but-
what also changes is its dance with the sun. See, like even in magic, you work with not just the moon's energies, but the sun's energies. Like there's certain times when the moon is waxing, and there's a certain spell during a waxing moon has to be at sunrise. Like there's always that dance with the moon and the sun. So that's why. So even when the sun is moving a certain way that shows the full light of the moon, there's certain forces that are hitting you.
But it's only
during that
light.
time.
It's only light that changes.
Well, so
It's just
when
I'm
you
just
get
saying.
sunlight,
Yeah.
when you get sunlight, you get sunburned, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, but people say it's just light.
I'm
It's
very
hitting you.
milky, by the
but
way.
it's affecting you physically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It's still that dance, that play with the moon's energies that will change things. It's just like at certain times of the day is hotter than other times, right? But the sun doesn't look like it's moved. It's any different. Like at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not as hot as if it was 10:30 in the morning.
It's
But
you
it
know.
doesn't look any. The sun.
It's not
is
closer
still-
by any means.
Right.
It's closer actually in
And
the winter in the
It's still
northern hemisphere.
shining
You
just
know
as
that, right?
brightly.
When we spin on our axis and our orbit takes us actually at a point where the Earth, the northern hemisphere, is actually closer to the sun in the winter.
Right.
It's weird.
But it
but it's
doesn't
cooler
change the fact that
because
it's
we are further
still
away.
shining.
We're just tilted towards.
All right,
Yeah.
let me try to put it this way for you, Joe. So, as Tina was saying, going with, let's say, temperature throughout the day. The longer the sun is out, the warmer it gets, and as it starts to go down and it starts to get to a different point or a different refraction point, then the temperature starts to go down. When it comes to the moon at night, you're getting the light from the sun. Most of the metaphysical power, we talk about it coming from the moon, but it's not. It's coming from the sun. Most powers or intuition or abilities come from stars. Our sun is a star.
Yeah. Everything in the star is inside of us too. By the way.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I get that. Yeah.
So having the moon shining at night on us is more of that ability from the sun. It's more of that light from the sun. So
And, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
And you
Correct.
could also look at the other theory that the moon is a man-made satellite.
Yeah, I don't believe that. You know, the whole green cheese thing. Nah.
Green cheese.
Green cheese?
Come on, you never seen that cartoon? You guys had to have.
What?
What?
What does
What is
that
that
mean?
supposed to mean?
Because,
We're on the same
because we're
age.
375 years old, that means we should know these things?
Wow, you guys are young.
Well, we don't really.
But-
Dabble
Orange.
carefully there.
Yeah. Well, I was not being disrespectful. Yeah, my thing is that the positions don't change. It's just,
It's the amount
the
of light.
moon does change its position,
Right, but it all goes
Yeah.
down to the amount of light.
Yeah.
And
which still makes no sense to me. But
when you charge crystals, you charge them at night. You don't normally charge them during the day.
okay,
You're using the moonlight because it is a different kind of light.
okay,
It is a different kind of light because the moon is not. Once the sunlight hits the moon, even though it's bouncing back at us, it's not bouncing all of the different spectrums of light back.
Or how about this? It controls the damn tides, right? Come on.
yeah, it does.
I was gonna
It
say
does.
that.
So
it does.
It
Yeah.
does.
It controls things on Earth.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've
Well,
always
it's
looked
gravity.
at it.
It's
like
gravity.
Right.
humans
You
are
also-
what,
you
70%
also
water?
running a fine
So-
line here.
Which is why
like
it
I said in the
affects your
beginning,
emotions.
also kind of controls women. You're making the women
It
very
does.
angry.
Well, honestly, when
My stomach's at low tide right now. That's why.
Your stomach's
Your
always at low
stomach's
tide.
always at low tide. Let's just be
Right.
honest here.
I mean,
See
when
me when
I
it's at high tide.
when I had my first child, my first one, the labor room, the hospital, and you can attest to this. Not that she was there, but you can attest to this. The hospital was packed, and it was a full moon because women are.
Oh yeah,
they're-
yeah. I've heard
They're
that too. Yes,
connected.
I've heard
I mean,
that too.
And-
there was not a spot
On
we were
a
in
night
the
of a
hallway.
full moon, I used to work in the ER. It would be packed with people who we call them EDPs, emotionally
Yes.
disturbed people.
Absolutely,
Packed.
absolutely.
Or traumas.
Now-
it was.
I at one point had a significant other that worked in the emergency room for 10 years, and she would say the same thing. But when you look at studies, it doesn't seem to correlate into actual.
I'm just
More
curious, who
people
did
in.
the studies?
Because nobody actually
you.
is studying.
Johns Hopkins and
this.
places like that do the
You
studies.
have to
Scientific
look
people.
Yes.
at-
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But there are plenty
No,
of
it's just
scientific.
checking the amount of people coming into an emergency room. That's all that is.
You know
Right,
what?
but it not-
I don't
it's
believe
not-
the
No, I
numbers.
don't
it's not
believe that.
some, you
No.
I don't
know.
believe the numbers.
No.
You believe somebody
Agreed.
who's actually worked in it.
Yeah,
and
well.
I don't believe the numbers because you have to understand.
believe that it does
anything
something.
that is broadcasted. Well, there's only so many cases and this many cases of this. I'm sorry. There's always an agenda.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I've worked in the. I don't believe it. Don't believe it.
I was being very quiet.
All right.
I was
So now,
lipping. I wasn't speaking.
So back to the moon now.
back to the
back to
moon.
the moon.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to point out in the Mayan culture, the Mayan culture, the moon was represented as a goddess who would fight the sun into submission so that she could have equal time in the sky, and they would fight throughout the year. Which, when there was solar eclipses, the Mayan people kind of thought that it was going to be a doomsday for them because the goddess of the night, the goddess of the moon, had defeated the sun
Yeah.
during the day when it was supposed to be shining.
But listen, I got it in for those Mayans with their whole April Fool's thing. You know,
April Fool's thing?
Yeah, when, we were supposed to all die that day.
It was just the end of
It was the end
It's
of
in
their
back to-
calendar.
It was the end
It's the end of the
Again,
calendar.
it was
which
all-
goes back to the beginning
Right,
of the
and
calendar.
And it's
at that
almost
point.
like the same thing with like Halloween. It's all this propaganda that makes people think untruth. Hence why I said, doesn't anybody want to know the truth? Don't you all feel silly running
the
around
answer would be
and
no.
Listen,
assuming
that
something
was
different?
that was a joke. With their calendar, they didn't have 12 months either. So it
Well,
actually
no.
took
Okay,
place.
then.
Their calendar ended in the 1700s, by the way. So,
Their calendar
you
ran
know.
in what they call
just saying.
Baktoons.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
just like
Yes.
Books have
the
done.
yugas
Yeah.
in Indian astrology. And there are different yugas. There's Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga, and they don't
Kali
run.
Yuga!
But just like the
Sorry.
Mayans and just like the Indian, the Vedic astrology, it doesn't run 12 months. It's not like our mindset, the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. And that's what I was bringing
We're
up.
very flat line, very straight.
Yeah.
In those calendars, it's always a circle. It continues on.
Well,
So you just in
Cyclical.
one era before, and that's the ending of that era to go into the next one.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
mean the end of the world.
yeah. Well, that was a joke, but,
Right, and technically,
I do get it.
Technically, I mean, first off, that was supposed to be what 12, 21, 12?
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which, as you said, they didn't have the same amount of days, so
Months,
that was not the correct time for it
Yeah.
at all.
Right, exactly.
But in general, when it did move to restart the calendar, it put us into what is considered the fifth Earth, which it seems to be is if you follow history, every revision or every Earth that we have gone through has been a different epoch.
Not really for mankind, though.
A different epoch for the planet.
Yeah.
We've passed into the fifth, version of Earth.
Yeah. Well, them going
We
around
ain't
killing
doing
each
too well.
other has nothing to do with the rest of humanity,
This fifth Earth ain't doing too well.
Well, Jesus, look at it. But yeah, this is just a phase we're going through. It's got to be.
We're not teen.
Please make it a
The
phase.
planet's not a teenager, Joe.
No, but it's society. I'm talking about mankind.
No,
Mankind.
he's the teenager.
Bro, I'm lucky if I'm 13 mentally.